I want you to think about the last time you were sitting down with a friend or an acquaintance and they really opened up to you and said something like, wow, I never really share this with people, but this is what's going on in my life right now. And I want you to think about, how did you feel whenever they did that and how did you respond? Whenever somebody opened up to you and said, I'm really struggling with my marriage right now, or I don't know what to do with my kids, or my business is struggling, I'm totally broke. What How did that make you feel, and how did you respond whenever they opened up to you? And in this video, I want to talk about the power of vulnerability. We've heard that so much from Brene Brown, but how do we use that power of vulnerability in our business? What does it look like, and how do you do it in a way that it doesn't discredit your business? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. If you don't know me, my name is Michele V, and I'm with the Inspire Speakers School. And my very, very favorite thing is to really connect with your audience through your speaking. That is what I'm all about. I'm all about connection over perfection, because the truth is, you don't have to say the perfectly right thing. Honestly, people don't need to hear the exact words that are the right for them. What they really need to feel is that they trust you, they can open up to you, just like your friend opened up to you in this conversation that we just had, right? So let's go back to that conversation where your friend opens up to you. How do you feel? You feel trusted, right? You feel trusted, you feel honored. Perhaps I'm just sharing what I feel, right? You feel honored, perhaps. Maybe you feel like, wow, it really, there's just a level of connection, right? You feel connected. There's a level of connection that happens whenever somebody opens up to you. You feel trusted, you feel honored. And if you're a good listener and a good friend, you're going to listen to them. You're going to give them the space to share what they have to share, and you're going to support them, right? And then your level of connection with that person deepens. You trust them back. You're likely going to open up back to them. You might be the kind of person that just like spouts out a bunch of advice and then they shut down, but hopefully not. If you're listening to this, you're going to be the one that's going to listen to them. You're going to ask questions. Maybe you're going to share some of the vulnerabilities that you have, or like, oh yes, I've struggled with something similar, or I totally understand where you're going, right? Where you're coming from, that sort of thing. And so that is what really creates strong connections for us whenever we're in these private conversations. So let's take that example and bring it into our businesses. How do we, as content creators, as speakers, as movement makers, how do we become vulnerable and share our vulnerable things with everybody else without totally discrediting our business? Okay. This is such a great question. And I remember whenever I was a health coach, I was teaching people about plant-based diet and how to change their diet, change their life, and renew their health. And I had brought myself back from complete destruction, honestly, with my gut health. And so people were coming to me and they wanted to know, what are you doing? How are you eating? All that stuff. And so I started teaching them that. But one of the things was, during that time, I was an overeater. I struggled with compulsive eating, and I felt like such a failure because I wasn't perfect. And how many of you coaches and consultants and speakers know that you're not perfect? How many of you know that you're still struggling with something that your audience is also struggling with? And maybe how many of you feel like, hey, if they find out about this, this is totally going to discredit me and my business. Nobody's going to want to work with me. If that's the thought that I originally had, like, who is going to want to work with me? I am a mess. I am over here teaching them all about health, and then I'm eating, donuts every night. Right. So how are they going to trust me? And at the time I decided, I don't know why, I decided to share with my newsletter and my groupies all of the things that were going on with me. And I would tell them, and I would let them know, hey, this is what's happening with me right now. This is what I'm struggling with. And then I just looked at them and I promised them, and I said, hey, you know what? This is what I'm struggling with. I totally understand where you're at, and I'm going to find the solution, and we're going to get out of this together. Right. And so that, for me, was the way that I connected to them. And I was so surprised when nobody left my list. Nobody unfriended me. Nobody sent me hate mail. In fact, they leaned in because I opened up, and it gave them the space to open up. And whenever I did find the solution and I did conquer the problem, there were people lined up ready to work with me about that specific issue. In the meantime, I still got clients. So there is an opportunity. I want you to let you know that you can be powerfully vulnerable with your people. You can share things even whenever you're struggling with them right now, right? You can share with them right now if you want to. There's a way to do that. And the way that you be powerfully vulnerable is you want to open up about something that is a common thing that we're all struggling with. And it doesn't matter if, it's easier to do it if it was in the past, right? Hey, like I just said, I was really struggling with overeating, and I'm telling you about my struggle with overeating and how I'm feeling and things like that. And then, but I overcame it. And here's the lesson that I learned. So really, just as a quick key takeaway, right? To be vulnerable is to open up. It is to trust your people that they're not going to leave. It is to trust most of them that they are going to be kind to you. And again, I want to and the actual process of it is, hey, I'm going to open up and I'm going to share something that I don't normally share with people. I even say those words sometimes like, hey, look, it's really hard for me to share this right now. For example, if you're in a business, like, hey, it's really hard for me to share this right now, but I'm really struggling with money. Like, I'm broke. Okay, right? Okay, I wouldn't necessarily say that. But for example, that's just an example, right? Like, hey, it's really hard for me to share this right now, but my sales went down last month. I totally tanked, or I made this huge mistake. Okay, here's an example. I just did an event, and during the event, I'm like, here's the number one mistake I see people make. And then I looked back and I was like, I just made that exact mistake at the event. And it was so funny that, and so I could open up and I could share and I could say, guys, I made this huge mistake that I tell everybody else not to make. And then people know that because I'm opening up, because I'm sharing, because I'm being honest, it's like people who, comedians who go up there and they're overweight and they just immediately talk about how they're overweight and make jokes about it, right? Because it makes us feel connected to them. It just puts the elephant out in the room, you shout it out. And so then it becomes something that is easy to talk about with us. And then they know that you're not perfect either. And so that you're going to understand them. You're going to be honest with them. Whenever I open up to them, then they know they can open up to me. They know that I'm going to be honest with them and they can be honest to me. They know that this is a safe place for them, and it builds trust in your audience so quickly. So let's stop pretending that everything's okay. Stop pretending everything's okay. It's not okay. So the other half of this is, hey, you're going to open up, you're going to share something, a big blunder, a mistake, something that you're struggling with, right? But the point is, you don't leave it there. Right? That's vulnerability, but that's not powerful vulnerability. So in order to take it to the powerful side, you say, hey, but then I realized, but then I learned this thing, but then I decided, right? You give them a turning point that says, then I made this decision. I decided this is what I learned from that. And then you go into the positive side of what you learned, right? Whenever I was talking to you about my overeating, when I shared it with my audience, I said, okay, here's what I'm struggling with. This is what and then I decided I'm going to conquer this for us and I'm going to help you get out, right? See how powerful that is, that, hey, here's what I'm struggling with, but this is my decision. And then they see me follow through on that decision. And like I turned it into my weakness into my strength. I leveraged my weakness as my strength and I made them a promise. And then I followed through on that promise. Again, another extra level of trust. So go out there today. Think about one thing that you're struggling with right now, one thing that you are hiding from your audience because you think, hey, they are going to leave me if they know this. What's that one thing? What's the lesson or the declaration that you have from that? And then how can you share it with your audience and share it powerfully like that? Because again, they're going to open up, they're going to love you, and they are going to trust you even more. So thanks so much. Come back for more tips here in the Inspire Speakers School. I'm going to do a couple more videos on speaking and sharing your story. So we'll see you soon.